You know, this next fellow is a friend of mine. As a matter of fact, if I was to look up the definition of a professional climber, it'd be Patrick. Patrick O'Meara is a lifelong Coloradarian. Is that right? Coloradan. He's not from New Mexico. Not one of us. Who's been practicing arboriculture professionally in the Rocky Mountain region for more than 3 decades. He owned his landscape and tree care business since 1999. And at that time, he earned 2 landscape industry certifications and is a practicing ISA arborist, just like us. ISA certified tree climber and a tree risk assessment qualified guy. TRAQ. Coming to us all the way from, what's the name of that town? Highlands Ranch, Colorado. Please say hello and give a warm welcome to Patrick O'Meara.
Thank you, Tom. I'm going to check to see if the lavalier's on. Check. Check. Nothing. Not yet. I was going to joke that I'm sorry I'm late. I was out reading my Z. But read this. If you have a tree care company or involved in this at all, read this. It's so good. This keeps people safe. It's also for sale at the ISA Rocky Mountain chapter booth. Working now? Great. My name is Patrick O'Meara, like Tom said. I am an ISA certified arborist and an ISA certified tree climber and tree risk assessment qualified. It's a great combo for me. I have a company in Denver and people know about that. People know about my qualifications right off the bat because I want them to differentiate me. I want them to look at me as a trained professional instead of some person with a saw, because there are a lot of people out there with a saw. And hopefully all of you in the audience who happen to be that person with the saw, get some certifications, get some education in this industry and raise yourself up. You get to charge more, you get to do better by the trees. And it's a bragging point. It's neat. It's neat to have that continuing education. So first things first, this is not a safe job site. I just got onto the job site and I need to make sure that I'm safe. So the first thing that I'm going to do when I walk out of the truck is what? Anyone? Helmet. I wish I had giveaways. I'd give that person something. First thing I wear is a helmet, because if I'm at someone's house and I'm going to be pruning their tree, I'm going to assume that something's wrong with that tree. It might just be a standard pruning, but I'm guessing there's probably some storm damage in it or something that might hurt me. And I know that if I'm wearing my helmet, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not going to get hurt, but I know that it's a lot less of a chance that if something falls out of the tree, I'm going to get hurt. Second, safety glasses. They're with me all the time, as are my ears and my ears on this. All right. Properly suited up. Am I ready to go? Nope. Nope. I got to set up the site. Now, if I'm going to set up the site, I need to think about my crew. I need to think about me. One of the things that Dr. John Ball talked about was job site safety. So I'm going to put my cones up. My cones are going to be around my trucks. We'll just put this here as representative. They're going to be around my trucks. They're going to be blocking off the sidewalk if we're going to be doing stuff on the sidewalk. And I need to have that zone established so that nobody's coming in there who's not supposed to. I also am going to set up signs to let people know what I'm doing. If you have a marketing sign, great, put it up there. You know, ASK, tree pruning, tree care, that's great. But I want people to know specifically what I'm doing. This is a great marketing tool. If people are driving by and don't happen to put 2 and 2 together that the person climbing the tree is doing tree care, this is a great way to advertise that. Nice and simple, put it up, and you're now more professional. There we go. So, job site secure. And I've got some advertisement about what I'm doing. What's next? We ready to hit the tree? You guys want to see some climbing? You guys want to see some climbing? Yeah, I do too, but we're not ready for that. So we're going to go back over here because before I do anything on that side, I need to do all of this side, whether it's the night before, the morning of, and what this is going through my gear. When they asked me to come do a climbing talk, I thought about all the different things that I could show them with climbing, and this is cool and that's neat, but it doesn't matter if you're dead. And if you're dead because your gear failed, that's a really, really easy thing that you could have avoided. So get a chair like this, by the way. These little triangle chairs are awesome. So I'm going to start going through my stuff. What should I go through first? I just put this on. So I'll check it out. This is a cast helmet, pretty standard climbing helmet. And it is meant for tree care, which means it's going to be smacked around. And the people who made these expected it to get smacked around by branches. So this is a good helmet. It fulfills the Z standards and whatnot, but I still need to check that it's okay. First of all, is it in date? I'm going to look on here. It's old age. I'm going to look on here, and imprinted on my helmet, it says 2020. So this is 4 years old. Is a 4-year-old helmet okay? 4-year-old cast helmet, anyone? Look it up. It's fine. These will last 10 years. If you have a 2016 cast helmet, it's not. That was only good for 5 years. But Petzl makes these, Eldred makes these, Cast make these. Read your manual. When you get this, read through and find out those things. Once you figure out that it's in date, that's good. Start messing with it. Start pushing it together. I want to know if there are some cracks in there. Because if I got a big branch that's going to come down and smack me, I want to know that this thing is structurally sound. So I'm doing that. I'm taking a look at things like straps. I don't see normal wear, or I see only normal wear. I don't see any abnormal wear. I haven't cut myself. So that's all good. This is a Sena intercom system, by the way, that I have in there. And that's not part of my safety, but it's a huge part of my safety. So I'll check it, and I can tell that it is functional. Let's see if we can hear it. A little bit. Hello. Dr. Ball was talking about communication yesterday. And we had a conference last week in Denver where they talked about communication as well. If I'm 50 feet up and I'm taking a big branch and I need to get your attention, and I start screaming because that's the only way that you can hear over the chipper and the chainsaws and all the other activities, number one, I'm going to raise my blood pressure. I'm going to raise my blood pressure in an already stressed environment. And I don't want to do that. And you're not going to hear me. You know, if I'm saying stop, you might not hear what I'm saying. And all of a sudden, the pedestrian who's walking through the job site right past all of our cones like they normally do is going to get hit by something because we couldn't stop them because we didn't know that they were there. So please make sure that you have a good communication system. Some people have deaf climbers. I have a friend who's a deaf climber, and they have a certain vibration system that is worked into their scene. It's really slick. So, but make sure that you have some type of communication. If you get this, it's not flawless, but it's almost flawless. You can just sit there and this voice say, hey, why don't you come to a full stop? We've got a pedestrian coming through with a baby carriage right now. And then the whole crew quietly stops and then let them through, and then it starts back up again. And if you can maintain this kind of voice, that means that you're maintaining your blood pressure more likely, and that you're more likely to have that communication be exactly what it needs to be. Not necessary, but they're awesome. Okay, so helmet. I'm going to say that it's good. It's ready for climbing. So I'm going to put it back on. Glasses. What does it have to say on my glasses in order for these to be acceptable? Z87, Z87 plus. It says that right on the inside right here is Z87 plus. I know that these are good. They're not too scratched, and they're even clean. So those go on at the beginning of the day. This goes on at the beginning of the day, and they don't come off during the day. You want to have lunch under the tree? Well, you just cut a bunch of stuff up there. You can assume that there's probably one stick that didn't fall. And even a stick that's only this big, if it's fallen from 50 feet, it's going to draw blood. Drawing blood is dumb in this industry, and it happens all the time, but it's avoidable. So I've got my eyes, I got my helmet, I've got these ears, ear protection, because I like these. That's super quick and easy. These are a little bit more cumbersome. They're wonderful, but they're cumbersome. So if I just need to do something real quick, boom, I'll pop those on. Pants. Can you wear jeans in this industry? For Angie, can you wear jeans? Sure you can. They're long pants. Can you wear just regular Walmart boots? Sure you can. They're closed toe. They are, as long as they come up to a certain point, you're fine. Get some boots, get some pants, and with shirts, ANSI standards say that they have to have sleeves. So I've got long sleeves because cotton does a much better job of abrasion resistance than my skin. It's like 10 times as much or something. So yeah, you don't have to wear long shirts, but I do all the time, including summer. This is a true work shirt, and this is phenomenal at letting that in. Who has chainsaw pants? Raise your hand if you have chainsaw pants. Excellent. Chainsaw pants are fantastic. These have little vents back there, so in the summertime, I can open them up. This is a particularly hot pair, which I'm figuring out right now up on stage. But they are chainsaw resistant. And if I don't know if the steel guys had done a chainsaw test with chaps or pants, but is this going to stop both gas powered and electric or battery operated saws? No, but it's going to slow it down. So instead of having a cut that goes this deep, you're going to have a cut that, yeah, it's going to draw some blood. But as soon as you cut into these, it essentially explodes these threads, the nylon threads in there, and it gums up your saw. So, and it stops. So that's what you should be looking for. In the tree, the American standard is that you don't have to be wearing chainsaw pants. The European standard is, and I would argue that the European standard is much better than the American standard. If I'm 60 feet up in a tree and I cut myself, that's not the time to go, well, the American standard says I don't have to. Yeah. So if you have climbers in your company and they are consistently going up and doing that climbing and they have chainsaws, yeah, wear these. On days that I don't do chainsaws, sometimes I'll wear just regular climbing pants, and that's fine too. They're just regular pants. But I find when I wear these, I never have to think about whether or not I'm protected from chainsaws. And if you are wearing those jeans, totally fine. When you get on the ground and you're going to be bucking up your load, or you're going to be cutting up some branches with a chainsaw, put chainsaw chaps on. They're there for a reason, and they do a fantastic job as well. Can you cut through them again? Sure, but get some chainsaw protection. So I've got boots. I've got all the uniform that I'm supposed to do. Now are we ready to climb? Now are we ready to climb? No, why? What do we have to go through? Oh, the stuff that's going to hold you up there. I need to look at what I'm climbing with. So I'm sitting back down on my triangle chair, and I'm going to take a look at my harness. This is a Petzl Sequoia harness. I love it. Got way too many gear attachments, which means I have way too much gear, but I've got options then. When I go up in a tree, I've got options with what to do. So when I'm looking through this with Petzl, there's a card right there that has the date of manufacture on it. So take a look at that. If it's within, I think Petzl is, might be 10 years on this, but there are Tree Motion, there are a lot of different kinds of harnesses. So make sure that it's up to date. What I'm going to be looking for then, once I figure out that it's up to date, is all of the different attachments. I've got sewing everywhere. And if it's gray on these, it means it's life support. So I need to make sure that that hasn't been nicked, touched, scratched, or cut. And throughout this, I can see, and I'm doing a more cursory job right now for time's sake, but I can see that all of this is good. So next I'm going to the buckles. I'm going to see if these buckles work. So I've got buckles like this. I want to attach them. I want to detach them. I want to make sure that those stay in place because they're holding me up there. I want to go through, and this is called a rope bridge. That's what you attach all your stuff to. I want to make sure my rope bridge is intact because that's right there. That's real easy to be cutting something. So if this is at all cut, I want to replace it. These things are cheap compared to your life or at least an emergency room visit. I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to take a look at where this is attached. This is hard. This is not. So maybe there's going to be some wear in there. In this case, with both of these, looks like they're fairly decent. I might have another year on them, but I'm still going to check this next time I climb. I don't care if I've got another year. I'm going to check this. So that's good. Overall, everything looks good on this. So then I'm going into the other things. The other things in this case are lanyards. When you're in a tree, you have a rope. When you're going to make a cut, I don't care if it's a handsaw cut, you should have a lanyard on. Laws or the OSHA says, or ANSI standards say that if you're making a chainsaw cut, you have to have a secondary form of rope attachment. So that's this lanyard. I usually climb with two. So I can have this going and I can have that going. But I need to check that every time I'm climbing. I need to check these things. And the way to check it is I'm checking the rope. I'm making sure the stitching is all good. I'm going through slowly and I'm feeling if there are lumps in there to show that there's been some separation inside. I'm looking through to see what kind of abrasion. These ropes are made for abrasion. These ropes are specifically made for us arborists. So it's okay to have some fuzz on here and have some of that abrasion. If it gets too much, if you're wearing 25% of the rope away, yeah, then it's time to get rid of it. But right now, I don't see any of those cuts. I take pretty good care of my things. So here we go. That's a snap. Old snaps have 1, 2, and you open it. The new standard is that you have to have 3 motions to open it. So I have 1, 2, 3. And I hear people all the time say, what a pain in the butt to have to try to figure out how your fingers go. And it is. Until you get that muscle memory down, these are tough. Or you do it repeatedly, and all of a sudden that's opening all the time because you have that. They have quad openers now, which are terrible. But once you get used to them, you're good. So when I'm testing these, I want to do a couple of things. I want to go all the way open and close. And I want to do that 3 times. I also compete in tree climbing, and this is what the judges go through. They go through your stuff. So no matter what you feel about your stuff, they are going to look at it with a little closer eye. So I go all the way open and let it shut. I go middle, let it shut 3 times. And then I try to make it fail by going as close as I possibly can and letting it go 3 times. And if it passes, we're good. I do that with both of my lanyards, and I've determined that I'm good to go. I do this one as well, and then I go through all my carabiners. Okay. So, does anyone know what carabiners are supposed to be rated at for you to be able to, for them to be considered life support? No climbers? Thank you. 23 KN. It's about 5,400 pounds, which means that this is going to break at 5,400 pounds. You know what's going to break before this does? Your body. So these are way, way highly rated above what they need to be just for that overkill. And that's fine. I'm good with that. This is a steel locking carabiner that has 1 opening and a spinner. This was a fairly popular carabiner. Can I use this? No. Why? It's not 3 motions. It's only 2 motions, and one of them is a spinny thing. But I can use this for rigging. I can use this for a number of different purposes. And I mean, it's rated to like 50 KN. So this is a big bomber one. These are kind of tough if you're climbing with them because they're really heavy. And when you throw the lanyard around the branch and it hits you in the teeth, you figure out just how heavy that is. Yeah, I see a couple climbers laughing because you've done that. This thing, look how slick this is. It's got this great big blue holder like that. This thing's, who wouldn't want to have this? And the answer is anyone who's in competition or doing tree care, because it is 1, 2. So be careful when you're buying gear that if it's online, make sure that it's saying the right things. Make sure it's saying that it is triple action and that you can, and that it's got the correct rating on it of either 23, 24 KN or 5,400 pounds. So use this for other purposes, but don't use it for life support. I got all sorts of goodies up here. This is a friction saver. I need to check the rings, make sure that they're not having that metal degrade. I have devices up here. I need to go through each one of these links and make sure that those are all not showing cracks, excessive signs of wear, things like that. And I keep it oiled. WD-40, probably not. But if you wanted to get duck oil, which is really expensive, but really good, that's one of the recommendations. 3-in-1 oil is another recommendation if you need to keep these things a little bit more lubricated. Do that with every device that you have and whatever you're going to be using that day. This is the Akimbo. It's a mechanical device. It's awesome. But these things tend to go like that. It's not going to make you fall out of the tree, but it'll mess up some things. So when you're checking, if you have mechanical devices, make sure you check the things that you're supposed to. Make sure everything is in the right place. So mechanical devices are good. What am I going to cut with up there? Handsaw? You can do it with a handsaw. In fact, if you're going to be going to loft, you have to have a handsaw if you're going to be doing tree care up there. So standard stuff like this, you can get a, say I'm going to be in a crabapple and I want this, just attach that right to your saddle and you're good to go. It should probably be clean. So if you go through with something like 93% isopropyl alcohol, that's going to be a great way if you're doing things like fire blight to kill that. That's from Dr. Stephanie Adams back east. So I'm just using Purell because I'm not going to be doing crab apples, but I want this to be less gummed. If it's less gummed, it's going to be easier to use, and you're not going to get carpal tunnel syndrome as quickly because every stroke is going to be more effective. So something like this, a little bit on the blade, wash it off, and you're good to go. But wash your gear, wash your saws. And some people, especially in, like I say, crabapple season, will do it every single time, every single tree that they do it because they don't want to transfer from tree to tree. If we're in tree care, be careful of trees, please, or for the trees. All right. You're going to be bringing up a saw. Have a lanyard. Yeah, I mean, and I see you laughing at that. I laugh at this. This is the dumbest thing in my arsenal, and I freaking love it. Canada Red Chokecherry has that hard dead, and I don't want to dull my saw on it. So get this thing out, steering clear, 2 hands. I got Chainsaw Pro on. I've got my eye protection. I've got my helmet, and I've got my ear protection. And you can laugh all day at me going, but this is the standard. Little trick for you too, if you climb with a saw, whether it's this or a larger, more proper one. On my ascents, I like to have the lanyard on because I don't need to screw up my pants just because it's abrading as I'm bouncing around trying to get up. So what I do is I put a little stick right here and I clasp that. And so it holds that sheath in there. When I get up top, I can either stow the sheath behind me or I can, stand clear and throw it down, whatever. But I think it's good practice to be able to climb with something that's really sharp, not hitting your chainsaw pans or your harness. Gloves. Do I have to wear gloves? Yes, I heard you. Great audience, right? So far, let's get some more. I mean, this is your life out here. This is things. So if you have any inclination about, the answer to my question, say it. You need to be communicative in this industry for so many different reasons. So start with me right now. Do I need gloves? No, I don't. So gloves are something that I wear that I have a bunch of calluses already. I have a ton of friends who climb and they don't climb with gloves because they like being manly. Whatever. If it's going to harden your hands and it's going to make you so that your hands can withstand, that's fine. But you do not have to wear gloves. I do every single time. And every single time I don't, I get cut somehow and I get mad about it. So no on that. Other than that, there are a couple of things that I'm wearing. I've got a foot ascender on here. This is a CP foot ascender. It's just my personal preference. I think these are phenomenal. And if you're doing a moving rope system or a stationary rope system, you can utilize this. If you're in a stationary rope system or SRS, it's more imperative that you do have one. MRS is just helpful sometimes. So that's a foot ascender. This is a knee ascender. And it clips into these special boots that I have. And it clips up to here. And when I use these together, a knee ascender and a foot ascender, I can walk up the rope. And when I'm walking up the rope, I'm using my body's biggest muscles to do that. I'm not sure if you can tell, but I don't have a big upper body. I don't have the upper body strength that I wish that I had. A lot of climbers do have, but I guarantee you that your legs will outclimb your arms. So this is a good thing to have if you're going to be doing SRS. This happens to be Climbing Innovations. Safety first. This is Climbing Innovations. Richard Mumford does an amazing job. He creates these and he sells them. So I will definitely give him a plug. He's done a lot for our industry. So I've gotten all that. Additional things that I was thinking I should do when I came on stage. If I'm going to be on the ground, if I'm going to be either as a groundie or even when I'm setting up my things, get some day glow on. Whether it is, I had it in my bag here, just get a simple vest and have every single one of your ground workers wear this. And then someone goes, well, I'm working in the backyard. I don't care. If I'm 60 feet up, I'm going to see this when I'm saying stand clear and I'm waiting for a response. If I hear all clear, I still want to see him because I don't want to throw a stick at him. Well, sometimes I do, but because that's going to hurt. So have your crews wear something that makes them visible. I've got a shirt that's like this that I can wear all day. And this is a TrueWork jacket. On cold days, and if I'm going to be in the street, especially doing anything, I want something that everybody can see. John Ball was talking about yesterday about drivers being killed, not drivers, people on the road who are part of the groundy situation getting killed because cars are running into them and people are on their phones. Well, if you're wearing this, they'll look up from their phone and see you a little bit more quickly. So get something like this for your crews. Everybody should be out there, from the person giving the bid to the person doing the work in the tree to the person on the ground. Everyone should be wearing something like this. All right, we've cleaned our saws. We have checked all of our carabiners. Everything is good. One last little bit of safety. Stay hydrated. What a dumb thing in a dry place like this. What a dumb thing to bonk because you don't have enough water. This is kind of a big bulky one. I'm using it for skiing. I'll be skiing tomorrow, so I'm excited about that. But wear a pack like this. TrueWork makes a great pack. And if not, have water hand. This doesn't make sense for you to stop thinking correctly because you're thirsty. All right. Another thing that you should have on your job site, and Dr. Ball talked about this, have a medical kit. Have something that when we do find that blood, that we have some way of taking care of it, whether it's just a silky cut on your hand or whether it's a bigger cut. This is specifically a stop bleeding fast cut, and it shows big chainsaw there. So have something like this. It's inexpensive and keep it there. And if you ever use something from this, make sure to replace it. Sometimes people will put a little something around here to remind them that, I mean, you have to break it open in order to use this. So have something like that. Hope that you don't have to use it, but have something like that. We're ready to get in the tree? We are ready to get in the tree. I deem all of my gear safe. I believe the job site is safe and my workers are safe. We have things that are good for safety if something does happen. So ready to get out? Oh, it fell down. Okay, so now I'm over at the tree, but I'm still not ready to go. I'm still not ready to get up in this tree. What do I need to do? Inspect. Inspect what? Inspect a bunch of different things. The number one thing that I look at, and I hand wrote this morning, so forgive the poor handwriting. And there's one typo, I'm really anal about spelling correctly, and I spelled cavity wrong. So you'll see that. But this is a JHA. This is a job site assessment. And you should have this in some form. You should have something that your crews will fill out or your salesperson will fill out that talks about the hazards that you're going to find on this job site. Because every one of these job sites has some type of hazard up there. So in order for us to be thorough, we need to start with company information, have your company information up there, have which crew is out there, and maybe some more information about your company. That's not a big thing. Job site info. I want the location. When I get hurt and you're calling 911, you need to say, I'm at 123 Jefferson Street and I need a high angle rescue and I need you to send paramedics right now. And if they know your exact location and you can say, I'm on the west side, then they can go directly to you and start giving you aid as soon as they get there. So please have everyone have this, whether it's on their phone, whether it's on a goofy thing like this or a piece of paper. Have that. Everyone should be signing it. Everyone should be looking at this and understanding this and signing it before anyone ever touches anything that's going to go in a tree. So location, date, name of customer, maybe work to be performed. We're doing a tree removal. Going down from there, hazards. I usually, when I'm doing my hazards, I go sky, tree, ground. Those are the three things that I look at. I'm going to call it aerial hazards right now. I'm just going to let that go. So aerial hazards. What's the number one thing that I'm looking at that John Ball's talked about before? Power lines. They're everywhere. And they're especially going to be in places when you're not paying attention. So before you're up in a tree and you look over and you see that, you better be doing a 360-degree tour around that tree to see if there are electrical hazards. Sometimes it's not just power lines from pole to pole. Sometimes it's a house drop to the house. Sometimes it's from the house out to the garage. But you're going to see those power lines, and you need to stay how far away from them from yesterday's talk? Strong. Minimum approach distance. If you don't know what you're doing, you need to be at least 10 feet away. So we need to be aware of those things. Street lights. That's going to be something that's in the air that I don't want to hit. That's expensive to have to fix, and I don't want to do that. Or other signs. In tree, I'm looking for hangers. I'm looking for widow makers. I'm looking for something that, and I'm doing this with the tree in whatever form, and that falls down to me, it's going to hurt. Or in this case, some cases, making that widow. So look for that storm damage. Look for other kind of storm damage. Maybe it's just broken a little bit, and the operations of you swinging around are going to make that thing break even more. Maybe it's something that you know that is a target that you need to go up and take care of too. Cavities and mushrooms. If you look up and you see a great big cavity, you've got structural integrity issues potentially because you got a big old hole in the tree. You know, steel pipes are strong, and trees with holes in them can be strong, but you need to know about that beforehand. And that is one of the issues with climbing SRS when you're shooting your throw line way up there and you don't know what you're getting into. I'll get into more of that later too. But look for those cavities. And if you have some big cavities or you have those big conchs that are growing out of the side of the tree, I mean, it's obvious you've got some decay going on in there. And if you are a 200-pound lollipop when you're 60 feet up and you're doing this, that might just be enough to make that tree fail. The guy who wrote the book, The Art and Science of Practical Rigging, one of the Bibles of rigging trees, died because he was 10 feet above his rigging and the whole tree failed. And he rode a log to his death. I think it was like 70, 80 feet to his death. And he wrote the book. So make sure if you're seeing things like that, that's where a salesperson comes in and says, hey, this might be something we should do with a bucket or some type of lift versus getting a climber up there. So we'll be looking at that. And has anyone ever gotten into a fight with bald-faced hornets? Raise your hand if you have gotten stung, because that, if I remember them, they're this big. They're not really, but if I remember them correctly, they're this big. And they are more aggressive than yellow jackets, and they have these great big nests, and they are kind of a beige color. So you're not really seeing them from the ground as easily. But if you see them, when I saw them the very first time, I did not do a thorough enough check. I was in Boulder, Colorado, and it's this great big elm. It was kind of a rainy day, and I got up there and I thought, why is there a great big black fly here? And then I went, why is there a second great big black fly? And it was about the 10th great big black fly that I realized it wasn't a great big black fly. And I looked from me to you away, and this thing was like beach ball size. So I got my stuff in and went to the ground, came back up, geared with all of this wasp spray, and I hit it a couple of times and then went down because I was scared and had to come back up and do it. I don't like killing things, but those I'll kill in a heartbeat. But if you know, if you know that something's up there, then you can mitigate it beforehand. If you don't know and you get anaphylaxis because you are allergic to bees or wasps, you will die, and they will take your body from the tree and have to extricate it because you're just hanging there lifeless because you have 1,000 hornet stings. Don't do that. Figure it out beforehand. Same, not same with squirrels and raccoons. Know that they're up there. Even if it's just for the startle factor. When you're up there and something jumps out at you, it is a little scary. So make sure, and things like springtime. I have people all the time ask me if I'll cut out squirrels' nests, and I don't have a problem with it, but I have a huge problem with it in the spring. I'm not a jerk. I don't want to be a jerk human. And if I'm tossing baby squirrels to the ground, you know, maybe wait till another time of year to do that. Maybe say, hey, we'll come back. So be a good human. And then the last one is on ground or in ground hazards. Raise your hand if you are an arborist and certified in irrigation. Raise them high. 0, 0.0. Okay. If you hit, there we go. Nice. If you hit an irrigation manifold in the wintertime, you're going to break it apart and you won't know that the water is live in there. If you hit it in the summertime and it explodes, you won't know how to fix it. And you're going to pay someone who does know how to do that a lot of money. I build irrigation manifolds. I am irrigation certified, and it's a lot of money. Don't hit sprinkler heads. Don't hit irrigation manifolds. That's silly. Get a piece of plywood, put it over the top, protect your job site. Bird baths. I've broken one bird bath in my life, and the people were so mad. It was this cheap little something, and I couldn't find a replacement for the top. And so I had to buy them a whole new bird bath, you know, and that's silly. It's a silly waste of time. It's a silly waste of your money. You should get paid for doing this, not hauling a bird bath in there. Sculptures, same thing. Some people have a big attachment to whatever sculpture. Don't be hitting that. Things on the ground like fences. I mean, there are a lot of jokes in this industry about F your fence. And it's because we break a lot of fences. So don't break fences. It makes you look silly, and there goes more of your profit. I also have the house itself. Don't be swinging things into houses. If you're rigging things out, don't be having things that hit the house, even if it's just a little bit, or even if it's just your throw ball landing on top of the roof and making a sound. Don't do that. It's silly. It's an avoidable thing. Landscape plants, shrubs. I mean, you just saw the plants that are up here. It's thousands of dollars worth of expensive plants. And when you bring a log down on top of it and it snaps the top of it out, you're not only replacing it, but you're replacing it with something that's really big. That stuff is really expensive. I'm a landscape designer as well. I know how much that costs wholesale, and you don't want to be doing that. Flagstone, you break someone's flagstone and you're now getting flagstone from the landscape materials place and then figuring out how to install hardscapes. It's a waste of time and it's a waste of your money. Patios, benches especially, benches and chairs, grills. How many of us have damaged a grill? I'll take my hand down because I move them out of the place. When we do tree risk assessment, we take a look at things that are movable. That's one of the questions. Is the target movable? If you can move this over to here, move it. Move it out of the way so that you can bomb the ground, because I don't care about their grass. Although I do, but so just general awareness on these things for the job hazard assessment, and do this every single time that you're going to get on a job site. It's going to save your crews. It's going to save your reputation. It's probably going to save some money, and it's going to help keep everybody safe, or be more likely to keep everybody safe. So we've done the job site assessment on this, the job hazard assessment. And we are going to take a look at the tree now. And I am going to do what I'm supposed to do, which is a 360-degree walk around. I'm looking for all the stuff that we had talked about. I'm looking at the base of the tree, though. If I find a bunch of mushrooms at the base of this tree, what does that mean? What does that mean? It's rotten. You got roots that are rotting, you know? And once I get in there and that whole tree fails, that's a really bad time to figure that out. But if I can see it beforehand, again, going back to the salesperson going out, salesperson should say, this is not a climber. This is not someone that I'm going to send 70 feet up and go be a 200-pound lollipop up top. This is going to be a bucket truck, or this is going to be some type of lift. I don't see any issues. I see that there's been some previous pruning. Looks pretty decent. So I'm going to say that at least it's been well cared for. And I don't see any of the things that we were talking about on the JHA. So I deem this tree safe to climb. I deem my gear safe to climb. So at this point, would you agree that it's time to climb? You're all hesitant. I don't know. I would say you're pretty close. So one of the things that I do to get into trees, and we're going to shift gears now into the actual climbing aspect, is use a throw ball. I don't know how many of you use a throw ball. There's a good, old school way of walking up the tree and getting branches and pulling yourself up, but throw balls are awesome. And if you learn how to use a throw ball and throw line, it's going to make your processes a lot better, a lot smoother, a lot faster. So take advantage of that. One of the first things that I would do though is if I found a good branch union to go up into, if I can, I'm going to make it a little bit easier for myself. So I would like to go ahead and cut some stuff. What do I need to know? How far does someone need to be away from me if I'm going to be using the chainsaw? You just said it yesterday. 10 feet, right? 10 feet away. So I got my ears, I got my eyes, I got my helmet, I got my chainsaw proof pants or chainsaw resistant pants. I'm going to make this a little bit easier. This can be done with a pole lopper, pole saw, whatever. Stand clear, cutting. Stand clear, cutting. All right, so that's going to make it a little bit easier for me to do what I need to do. And a lot of times I do that from the ground. So I'm just cutting some things because why not? If you're right there, facilitate your climb by making it a little bit easier. This stuff always gets in your way. But now, yes. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good thing to note in your job, in your JHA, whether or not they have pets. And pets, I mean, dog poop will all laugh about, I hate stepping in it. You know, it always gets in my foot ascender, but it's also a slippery surface. So got to be careful for that. And if people are going to be letting their pets out while you're dropping branches, you need to know about that too. So you can tell them, hey, nobody comes out here. If you need to come out here, go to the gate, knock on the gate loudly, and we'll address that. That's a good point. So dogs are inside. We're all ready to go. We've cut some things around. I'm going to go ahead and use a throw ball. Two ways that I use the throw ball to get in the tree. One of them is granny, and that's two hands like this. Stand clear, throw in, and I get it like this. I'm eyeing my target, and then I throw. You heard that, right? That's what it sounds like when it hits the roof, except it's amplified. It will go through a window. This is a 10-ounce weight. Don't throw it toward houses. Don't throw it toward people, and let people know when you're throwing. I want to get this from the ground into here. So I can use my granny and do this. When I'm about to throw, I better be looking at all the things that I'm going to hit. And I'm going to hit you square in the glasses when I do this. If that's the case, this is the perfect shot right here. This is so easy, you know, but I do need to stop and I need to go, you know, it's not worth it. I don't need to break your glasses into your face. So I'm going to go to a different place. In fact, even though it's further, I'm going to take it down here. And I'm going to try from here. And I do competitions and we get all sorts of psyched when people cheer. So if I do well here, stand clear of throwing. Anyone here work in tree care? Raise your hand if you do. Okay. What should you do if I'm saying stand clear? Yeah, you need to all look around to make sure that I am clear and then say stand clear. It's one of the biggest pet peeves I have on a job site is when I say stand clear and then someone immediately goes, all clear. You didn't check anything. You just said the words. That's silly. All right. Stand clear. Did you look first? All right, here we go. Granny style. I've been practicing. So that was one way to get it up in the tree, is that granny style. That works really well. I went to the International Tree Climbing Championship in Copenhagen 2 years ago. They just had one in Albuquerque last year, and it was phenomenal. I hope a lot of you went and saw that because it was amazing. But I noticed that a lot of the people in the throw line event were using one hand. Probably 2/3 of the people were using one hand to do that. So I came back and decided I was going to try to do that. It's the same principle, but it's using one hand. Stand clear. Thank you. And you throw it. And if you can hit these targets that are 50 feet up, I don't need to get to the top of the tree. I want to maybe get 80% of the tree, because then I'm climbing to 80% of the tree. I'm getting all the way up there on my first climb, my first ascent. And it's so nice when you can do that. So work on your throw ball and make that make it a part of your game, if you will. So I threw that and it's up there. What should I install? Can I just install the rope? Friction saver, right? I can install the rope in here. That rope's going to go in there. And if it's SRS, it's not going to do much damage. And if it's MRS or that moving rope system, I'm going to get that rope in there and I am just going to be destroying the cambium on this backside. You're going to have friction. You're going to have all of this abrasion. So if you're going to limit it to just your ascent and then install a friction saver, that's fine. Recognize you're doing some damage. And again, we're in tree care, but I would say at all times, get a friction saver. So in this case, a friction saver comes in many forms. This is one of them. This is more of an old school one. And you can install friction savers from the ground. So I've got the throw line, it goes up here over the branch and now comes down into here. Take this off because I've got a certain little way to make it fast. Put it right down through. Going to reattach my ball. Now, do I need to say stand clear when I'm raising something like this up? Of course I do. It's going to jar something. It's going to knock something loose. I want to say stand clear every single time I'm doing anything. All I want is safety on my job sites. And if that means that I have to be a little obnoxious with what I'm saying or how often I'm saying it, that's fine. I'd rather have someone be upset with me because I talk too much than upset with me because I jarred something loose that fell on their head or their shoulder or someplace that's non-protected. So I'm on the ground. I'm 60 feet below. I've got this established. I'm just going to bring it by pulling the throw line right when I get to there, stand clear. And I got it. And then I'm just going to drop this down to the ground. That's slick, people. That is a slick way to get something in the tree from way, way down there. Now, I forgot something. I did rope before. I showed you with my lanyard, so I didn't really forget. But make sure you do your climb line lanyards or your climb line as well, that rope inspection. Go through every inch of it. So that's what I do with this. Go. Okay, so in order to get this up there now, I'm going to take the throw ball off again. And there are a lot of different ways to attach a throw ball to a throw line. This one, I'm just going to do a girth hitch and attach it like that. So again, I'm on the ground doing this. Stand clear, rope going up. Thank you. And I'm just going to pull it all the way up. When I get to there, oftentimes it'll just make it nice and easy. And then you pull that down to the ground. Once you pull that down to the ground, you're in. Who knows why that is outside of protecting the tree? Why is that better for the climber? Less friction. It's less friction. If I'm going to be doing moving rope system, that means I'm going to be using some mechanical advantage with the rope that I set up at this, and I'm going to be getting up the tree. And if it's going through this, it's a lot smoother than if you're running over bark. An additional thing that's nice is that's a lot easier on my rope too. That means that this rope is going to last longer. These aren't cheap. By all means, replace them when they need to, but they're not cheap, and I want it to last as long as it possibly can. So that's a great way to do it. Another way to do it is using a different type of friction saver. Dan House is an arborist in Denver, and he makes these. I met him at Saluting Branches. There are Saluting Branches in there. By the way, go to Saluting Branches. It's one of the coolest feel-good events that you will go to as an arborist. But let's say I got this rope in the tree. I haven't climbed on it yet. So you just simply go through, poke that through. And you're just going to put a simple slip knot on it. And it's going to be below. It has to be the right way. Not necessarily, but it helps if it's the right way. And the right way means that I can pull it out from down below and it's going to come out. Oops, there we go. Okay, so this is down below with me, and you just pull this side. When you get to this, you can pull it up and over, and then you're in like that. I think this is stable enough. There you go. And now you're in. So it's a different, you'll still have the friction of all of this, but it's a lot smoother than if you're just doing it on bark and you're helping the tree. You're helping it by not having that abrasion and that friction. So there you go with that. That's another way to do it. And this is specifically if you're doing moving rope system. By the way, how much time do I have? About 10. Okay, great. So how many of you climb MRS? Because I do. MRS is something that I have integrated in my systems because it is great. You have mechanical advantage. If you're doing a limb walk is, say there was a limb that goes way out here and I'm way over here and I need to get back there. If that limb is declining or down this way, I can use that mechanical advantage with an MRS system to help me get back up to the main trunk. But I like to use SRS. And SRS is a stationary rope system, and that line is just sitting there. There's no movement whatsoever. So once I get my line in a tree, I'll use this. That line's in the tree. I need to come up with an anchor. Is it better to use an anchor at the base of the tree or up top? It depends. So I've got a couple of options as an SRS climber. If I've got a really strong branch union up here and I think I can trust it, I might go with a canopy anchor. And a canopy anchor, in this case, we'll say we'll do a running alpine, no, not a running alpine bolon, alpine butterfly, but something like that. So I'll make an alpine butterfly in there. I tied it, I dressed it, I set it, and I can just simply put this rope through and then take it all the way to the top. And now this line is totally ready for me to climb. What a great way to be able to do it. There's no expensive hardware. It's just rope on rope, which is also one of the additional, it's one of the downfalls of it because that rope on rope will eventually abrade, but it's not going to be the downfall of my rope. So there we go. And I'm ready to climb. This rope that's over here, it's the one that's going to pull down. So when I'm done at the end of the day, I just need to pull that and the whole thing comes down. But you saw me kind of work it like that, right? So it's a little bit more difficult to get that down. Also, it might get in my way when I'm climbing. So I usually put that over on side and just keep it out of the way. So one of the ways that I get it so that it's a little bit easier is I still have that alpine butterfly that I made. There we go. And I'm going to put one of two things on there. This is a quickie. Super easy and it's very quick. That's why they call it that. And now when I go up, I don't have that rope on rope friction. I have rope on metal, which is a lot smoother. And I'm going to pull that up there. And now it's locked in. I'm totally ready to climb on this. So I get my foot ascender on, I get my knee ascender on, I get my device on, I get my chesty on, and then I'm ready to go. One thing that people don't like about this, and I understand, is if it's like this, I don't know if the camera's catching that, what happens when that gets compressed into the tree? There's potential, I would think, for it to pop out that way. And they have some fail safes on that, but I don't think they're fail safe. I think they are something that helps it not fail. So I want that, if you're going to be doing this and using a quickie, I want that to be over here. So when it's up against the trunk, I don't have that pin getting compressed. So that's another way to do it. And I like that. I prefer, though, my bomber way of doing that is to get a different device. This is made by Petzl, and it's called a maillon. I don't speak French, but that's my version of it. And this thing is rated at 50 kN. This is as strong as you'll ever need it to be. So same principle, I get that on. And this is just a screw lock. And didn't I say before that screw locks aren't allowable? Anyone? Right? Okay, this is a screw lock. The only way that this is allowable is if you put mechanical force on it. So I got it all where it's supposed to be, locked it down with my hand. This lives on here. And when I go in there and crank it down, now I can use that. I use this if I'm unsure of anything up there because it is as solid as it gets. Same thing when it's down here, pull it up, it locks in. And now we're good to go. And I'll climb all day on this. And when it's time to come down, that's super smooth. So that is probably my most preferred way of doing a canopy anchor on an SRS system is with this big guy. So I'm going to take that off and show you one more thing on that. There we go. So one more way to do this is with the friction sabers we talked about, like this. I'm going to use this one. This is called a ring and ring. Notice that the ring sizes are different. One of them's big, one of them's small. So you can set it from the ground, but let's say I got up into the tree and I just want a little bit less friction or less, anything on the tree. I will go up there and I'll put my rope through it. I'll have my lanyard on and I'll weight test it so that I know that it can save me or that it can hold me. And I will do it from the other side. There we go. So I will make it through both rings at that point. I'll make an alpine butterfly. And there are a couple different ways to do that. And I'm going to do what's called knot blocking. That knot will not go through there. So that's a knot block way. I don't know if I trust that fully though. So what I'll do is I'll put a carabiner through it like that. And I'll go around the rope just cause. And doing that means that thing's not coming out. So then I'm climbing all day on the opposite side. And at the end of the day, it's the same thing. You just pull it down and that frictionless is so nice. It's so smooth going over the top of it. So I have my rope in, I've checked the tree out, I've checked my gear out. I'm all ready to go. Whether it's MRS or SRS, I feel like I can go do the job that I need to do. I can do it safely and go home with a paycheck at the end of the day and show up for work the next day. And as a 53, almost 54-year-old climber, I got a wife, I've got 2 kids, I got an awesome dog. So I want to be doing that. So if you are using these techniques, if you are doing what you're supposed to be doing with that stuff, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing with this stuff, you are more likely to be coming home at the end of the day. And that's that. There's a 30-minute break. So if any of you have any questions about this, please come up. I love talking about tree stuff.
Some of the cleanup.
Yeah. Thank you for saying stand clear or all clear, by the way. I appreciate that.
Thank Trees, New Mexico. We'd like you to have this free cookie.
Thank you.
For a job well done.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.